What's up? My name is Ashley and I'm a six-figure reseller on Poshmark and eBay. Today we have a what sold video for the month of October. Not gonna lie, I thought October was going to like blow it out of the park. I started out the month so well. I think I had one day around like the 4th or the 5th where I had like $2,000 to $3,000 in sales in one day on Poshmark. Like when I looked at my sales insight on the app there, it was just like all the way up there, and like everything else was like not like that. So I thought it was going to be really good, and then it started to trickle off toward the end of the month. I would say about the first 2 weeks, first half of that month was really good, and then sales really started to slow down at the end of the month. So the month turned out to be pretty average. I didn't hit my goal. I was about $200 away. I did sell less items. I only sold 112 items, but still had about an $88 profit average. So I sold good items, but I just didn't sell enough to hit my goal. I was still working just as hard. I was still listing a ton of items. So there wasn't anything particular where my work ethic didn't result in more sales. I think there was just something going on at the end of the month. I'm not exactly too sure to pinpoint it, but we're just moving forward and focusing on November now. So just like all my other What Sold videos, we're gonna be talking about the Fast, the Furious, and the MVPs for this month, or the items that had sold in under a week, the really bad buys that I had and ended up selling that were not great sales, and then my MVPs for the month, the items that sold for over $100 profit. So we're going to start with the Furious in the WTFDIBT, why the fuck did I buy this, and look at the items that either didn't sell for a lot of money or took a long time to sell. I will say this month I didn't really have too many where it was like a really bad profit. However, a lot of these items took over a year or over 2 years to sell. So just by the fact that they took forever to sell and they finally sold is the reason why I am not happy about buying these items. The day where I don't have anything in this section is the day I'm gonna be truly happy, but not sure if that will ever happen. I feel like we are always making mistakes and learning from them, especially a lot of these items, as you can see, since they are from a year or two ago that I had picked them up, we're always still learning the mistakes from the past. So hopefully as years go on, I don't have as many. I still always seem to sell like 5 to 8 items that were not very good for the month. So this first item actually had a decent profit. However, it took so long to sell, over 2 years, and that is this Love Shack Fancy Velvet Jacket. I think the issue with it is I put a filter on it that took away the color a little bit of it, and when I did that, I think when the buyers came to the page, maybe they couldn't like trust the color as much, even though I did have like a stock photo in there. That is why I no longer use this filter on like lighter tan colors and things like that. So it sold for $92 after fees. I paid $33, so I made a $59 profit, but literally one of the items that took the longest to sell. I've had this item forever. Next is an item very similar to the above, and is this Ace and Jig striped dress. It sold for $76 after fees. I paid $48 for it, so I only made a $28 profit. Not awful, but again, this one took a really long time to sell. I picked up Ace and Jig all the time when I first started off, and I feel like Ace and Jig used to have a period where it would sell so quick, but now I'm even more particular on the items. I only really pick up really rare styles or colors or items unless I find it really cheap. I am a lot more particular with it, I will say, because I have a ton of Ace and Jig items that are not selling for what they used to sell for. So although a great brand and it's not an awful style, it's still a piece that did take a long time to sell, and I wish I could give more information on it. I guess people didn't like it, and I think also the older filter had to do something with it as well. And we have one last item that didn't have an awful profit, but took a really long time to sell, and I paid a little bit more than I should have for it. And it is this Jenny Kane silk leopard dress. Even though Jenny Kane is a great brand, I do find more so that her cashmere sweaters, wool sweaters, and jackets tend to do better. The reason why I picked this one up is because she has this really popular like shift leopard dress, and so I was thinking like leopard dress, like Jenny Kane, and even so maybe I thought if more people were searching that this would also be something that would come up and people would be interested in as well. However, not the case. And so it sold for $80 after Poshmark fees, which I was so happy about that it sold for that. I paid $52 for the item, so I made a $28 profit. And this one again, very long time. As you can see, same filter, same color. There's like a pattern going on here with these items. You can notice the colors and how the filter does not complement these items and these colors. So always something to pay attention to. You really want whatever editing tool that you're using on your items to accentuate the correct color of the items, which is why I currently use my Lightroom preset Crisp and Clear to edit, because it does do so. I do still have the old one on my site in case other people still want to use it, or for Instagram and things like that. However, I usually don't recommend that one in particular for your Poshmark items anymore. This next item is this Topshop sweater that sold for $16 after Poshmark fees. I paid $6, so I only made $10 for the item, and it still took about a half a year to sell. I picked this up because of style, because it's a neutral sweater, which usually does pretty well. Topshop, in terms of at least searchability for people who are looking for cheaper items to pick up and put into their closet, it's a decent brand for that. And so I picked it up for only $6. I thought it at least sell quickly. I didn't think I would make like a huge profit off of it, but I still took forever to sell. And so that is why I kind of just like stopped picking up items usually, even if I think it's a decent style. I rather more so go for items that I pay more and will sell for more, because even if it's a bad sale, as you can see from above, it's at least usually like $20 is bad profit versus like $10 here. Next is this Theory rabbit fur vest. It sold for $24 after fees. I paid $15 for it, so I only made a $9 profit. Like a lot of my older videos where a lot of my bad sales were from sending things into ThreadUp from Fryer, this is the same type of thing. I did pick this up for ThreadUp originally because they did used to pick up items and price like furs or leathers a lot higher, and so I had sent it in for that, and it was priced a lot higher on there, and it did have some activity, but obviously never sold. And so I had to list it on these platforms, Poshmark and eBay, and it didn't get any attention. I never had it priced super high, and finally someone picked it up, so at least I made a $9 profit. But fur vests are really not in right now anymore, and so that is why it took a long time to sell. This last item here explains exactly why I have the hardest time donating items when they're not selling. So this item is a Free People black long sleeve thermal. It sold for $3 after fees, so I made $3 because this is an item I got donated to me back in the COVID ages. And so literally I could have just donated it and been like, nothing, of it, you didn't pay for it, just donate it, buy. It had like a ton of like flaws in it, so that's why I always had it priced low and just thought maybe someone would want to buy it for super cheap, but literally should have just donated this. I think my issue is when I already put in so much time of like listing and photographing it, even though I didn't pay for it, I invested my time into it, which still costs money to me, and so that's why I don't like donating things. But yeah, I honestly should have just donated this, but at least I made $3. But yeah, probably the worst sale, and it also took ever since before, like during the height of COVID, so over a year to sell. Very bad sale. If something is really ratted up, has holes in it, just don't pick it up. People don't like picking up things with flaws. Next, we're moving into the items that were fast, items that sold in under a week on Poshmark or eBay. This first item is this Prabal Garang dress that sold for $112 after fees. I paid $34 for it, so I made a $78 profit, and it sold in 7 days. This sold to a buyer who shops my closet very, very often, so I always give her the best deal. So this item, I was trying to sell it for more, but since I just got it in, it was still gonna be a good profit. I accepted her offer on it. As you can see, it still made a really good profit, a quick amount of time. And I always highly recommend that if you do have buyers that come to your closet often, do give it back to them and give them really good offers, maybe even a little bit under what you really wanted for it, because that shows that you see them or you recognize them, and they'll be a little bit more loyal to you. This item was a piece that this buyer usually does pick up, more of these designer dresses that are like longer dresses, a little bit more conservative. So I'm not really sure exactly if this would have sold as fast if I didn't have her as a buyer. However, the colors of it, the silhouette and the fit of it, I think were really nice. And so just something to pay attention to. Next is this Vince one button wool coat. It sold for $140 after fees. I paid $51 for it, so I made an $89 profit, and it sold in 6 days. So with fall coming around, coats, specifically items that are really nice fabrics like wool, alpaca, cashmere, and then really minimal colors such as like black, white, neutrals do really well for the fall. So that is why this one sold really quick. It did have a little bit of pilling in it, but it was a really nice long coat that really works with a lot of outfits for the fall. And so that's something to look out for as you're sourcing for the fall and winter. Next are these Dr. Martin Croc and Boss boots that sold for $181 on eBay after fees. I paid $80 for them, so I did make over $100 profit at $101, and these sold in 5 days. So more rare style Doc Martens always sell super well. Doc Martens in general I find are still really trendy. People are really looking for more of like the chunkier, thicker sole, so if you find those, the better. These ones did as well, and the ones that have like the zipper or the Velcro buckles across like I had sold last month always do really well. So this is still a consistent style to pick up that is currently trending. Next we have this Dress the Population yellow maxi bridesmaid dress. It sold for $103 on Poshmark after fees. I only paid $8 for it. This was a thrift store find, which was very good. So I made a $95 profit, and it sold in only 3 days. As wedding season is coming along, more people are looking for items to wear for that, or even just events in general as they're picking up post-COVID, especially this time of year since we're getting out of the summer where a lot of people may avoid events due to the heat. A lot of things pick up in the fall. So just a reminder to post those formal dresses for events and such. I'm not sure if somebody was looking specifically for this dress. I think it did just happen to be the right item, right time type of deal, because I've also had dresses like this in the past take a long time to sell. So this is again just an item as a reminder that can really prove that sometimes you can pick up something and it can sell really fast, and sometimes it may not. It just depends on the right buyer seeing it. Next is this Lolita Jacka kimono that sold for $98 on eBay after fees. I paid $36 for it, so I made a $62 profit, and it again sold in 3 days. This is the brand I've kind of recently come across and been testing out. This was the first item I've listed of it, and it did really well. It even did have a couple of small marks in the back, and I do think this is going to be more so an eBay brand versus a Poshmark brand, but the brand overall has a lot of very like tropical, like vacation-y type items, kimonos, really beachy kind of type dresses, things like that to look out for. Next is this Love Shack fancy sweater that sold for $220 on eBay after fees. I paid $83 for it, so I did make a $137 profit in 3 days. I always really love finding Love Shack fancy sweaters for the fall and winter. They can be really hard to come across at a good price. A lot of people know about them, so they're always usually priced higher. However, if you can snag your hands on them at a cheaper price, it is usually worth it. This was a new tag item, and it did sell overseas. So those two things together, in addition with the back it's a sweater and the brand, did help it sell quickly. Next is this Theory blazer that sold for $137 after Poshmark fees. I paid $65 for it, so I made a $72 profit. And this only took 1 day to sell on Poshmark. Blazers are always a really good seller for the fall. They're a really good staple piece. A lot of people are really looking for like plaid or houndstooth, really neutral colors per se. Also check is really in right now, so anything along those lines is currently trending and moving pretty quickly. But again, I still do have a lot of these styles in my closet, and some of these aren't selling for as fast, so just something to remember with your item. If you do pick this up, who knows, it may sell in a day, it may not. Usually just takes the right buyer to come along. Next is this Lauren Manoogian jumpsuit that sold for $240 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $140 for it, so I made a $100 profit in 1 day. As soon as I posted, I got an offer on that and was going back and forth with this one buyer. I feel like this item in particular, someone was really looking out for maybe the style and the color, because it sold really quickly, and sometimes this brand still takes a little bit of time for me to sell. I still priced it at a price that I usually price some of the other items at. So I think with it just being a one piece, which is also in, and the brand and somebody looking for it right time, I posted it as well, and so it sold in 1 day. Lastly is this Veronica Beard schoolboy blazer that sold for $300 after Poshmark fees. I paid $80 for it, so I made a $220 profit, and it sold in 1 day on Poshmark. I do see that these blazers pick up in sales in the fall, so they definitely start trending as people start looking to add them into the closet. closet in terms of their fall styles. And I do really like finding really classic black blazers. I feel like everyone's always wanting to add a black blazer into their closet, whether it's for just like a night out, or they can even wear it for business type wear or career wear. So it's really versatile, and that's why it's always a good staple to have in your closet. And even though people can be looking for them year round, they really do pick up in the fall. Now we're gonna move over to the MVPs of the month, the items that sold for over a $100 profit. So starting off like our last item, the first item that I sold over $100 profit was this Veronica Beard blazer. It was new at tags. It sold for $160 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $58 for it, so I made a $102 profit. And it did take a little over 4 months to sell. So again, like I said before, blazer Veronica Beard always picks up in sales. This item also did have a little bit of a flaw on the sleeve, even though it was new at tags, so that's why it did take a little bit longer to sell, or maybe not as close to the retail price. Next is this Hement and Nadita dress. It sold for $143 after fees. I paid $37 for it, so I made a $106 profit. And this only took 21 days to sell, so a little bit under a month, which is a pretty good sale for how quickly and the profit that I did get from it. I really like finding this brand. The dresses always sell pretty well. You'll just want to look for the ones that have a little bit more of like a boho style to them, a little bit more details. The maxis, of course, always sell more than the mini dresses. This one I still got for a great price, and so I was able to make a good profit off of it. Next is this Ulla Johnson jumpsuit that sold for $144 after Poshmark fees. I paid $38 for it, so I also made a $106 profit. It took a little bit over 3.5 months to sell. Not awful. I did pick this one up in my trip to New York back in July. It did get a ton of activity on it, so it was a good item to have in my closet. I thought it would sell sooner, but still happy with the sale that had come along with it. Next is this Prada nylon green crossbody bag. It sold for $238 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $130 for it, so I made a $108 profit, and this took a little bit under 4 months to sell. The Prada nylon bags and such always are a really good item that I like to find. Of course, I'd rather find like the mini black shoulder bags. However, I got this one for a decent price. It did have a little bit more scratches on it, so I knew it wasn't going to sell for as much. However, it did end up selling for a good price for it. It did get some decent activity on it, and I will continue to look out for these items in the future. Next is this understated leather pink leather jacket. It sold for $200 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $90 for it, so I made a $110 profit. This took a little bit over 3 months to sell. When I originally sourced it, I was like really excited to find it because I had always wanted to add this item to my closet and see how it did. I really was holding out for over a $100 profit since I knew that I could get it with the right buyer, and so I did. And I think with the fall coming along as well, it was a great time for it to sell to the right buyer. Next are these LOQ square toe boots that sold for $135 after fees on eBay. I paid $25 for them, so I made a $110 profit. These boots didn't give as much activity as I thought they would have, specifically on Poshmark, so I was really happy when this offer came in on eBay. Since I only paid $25 for them, I took the sale right away. Whenever I have items that are not getting a lot of activity, I am so much more prone to accept an offer on them, just because you never know when the next offer is going to come along with the history of how much activity or the lack of activity has been on it. Next is this Paris pink fuzzy coat. It was new with tags. It sold for $185 on Tradesy after fees. I paid $75 for it, so I made a $110 profit. I'm not sure what was going on with this jacket because I originally had got 2 of them from a sample sale, and one sold on Poshmark. I think I obviously for less than $100 profit, but still a good profit. And then like a week later, a couple days later, it sold on Tradesy. So I'm not sure if there was something going on in the media with it where everyone just wanted it at the same time, but I was like really shocked that they had sold so close next to each other. And this one took a little bit over a month to sell. Next is this Gucci black tote that sold for $220 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $109 for it, so I made a $111 profit, and it took a little bit under 2 months to sell. Obviously, Gucci's a great brand, so because I got this at a pretty decent price, price, I knew that I could sell it well even if I had to sell it for a little bit less, and so that's why I picked it up. Even though it may not be the trendiest or most desirable of items, people are always searching for Gucci items. Next are these mousy jeans that sold for $182 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $70 for them, so I made a $112 profit, and it took a little bit over a month to sell, so pretty great sale. These were a tiny size. They were size 24, and I usually don't pick up really small sizes anymore. However, this was a really desirable style of the brand with the distressed busted knees and the high waist, so therefore, because I got it at a decent price, I did go ahead and pick it up because I knew that people were going to be looking for it, especially because it's something that's very big on Instagram. A lot of bloggers wear this style. I knew that there's a ton of like tiny little girls out there that would be looking for this style, so I knew even though it was a size 24 that it would still sell really well. Next is this Loeffler, I think that's how you pronounce it, Randall dress that sold for $200 on eBay after fees. I paid $84 for it, so I made a $116 profit, and this also took about a month to sell. I usually don't pick up this brand super duper often, but when I was sourcing and came across it, I was really attracted to the style, the long maxi dress, the really boho peasanty style of it. So I knew that this was a good brand that retails high, and I knew that the style was really good, so I knew that even though a lot of this brand may not sell close to the retail, because the style would be more desirable, it would sell closer to the retail like I had talked about in my last video. So that is why I picked it up, and it sold well. It sold in a good amount of time, so I was really glad that I picked it up. Next is this Anine Bing buffalo coat that sold for $272 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $155 for it, so I made a $117 profit, and it took a little bit over a month to sell. It got a ton of activity, a ton of offers on it, but I knew that this was a really desirable style, so I was really holding out on it, and eventually somebody was able to come up with a good offer for it and not a low ball, and so therefore it sold pretty decently. Next are these Jimmy Choo booties that sold for $160 on Poshmark after fees. I paid $38 for them, so I made a $122 profit. I originally bought these for ThredUp as well, but had to post them on Poshmark after everything. So these did take about 6 months to sell, a little bit longer, but glad with the fall coming around, they did sell for a good price. Next is the brand Laline, or it looks like it's spelled Laline, but it's probably not how it's pronounced. And it's this blue sweater that sold for $212 on eBay after fees. I paid $87 for it, so I made a $125 profit, and it took a little over a month to sell. I really love sourcing these sweaters. The striped sweaters do really well, especially for the fall. There wasn't as much supply of this color on the platforms, so I knew that I could be a little bit more particular on the price, and it was a color that people were looking for, so it did sell for a little bit higher price than some of the other sweaters. A lot of the other sweaters that I have had in the past, I usually haven't priced as high, but because this one had different dynamics of supply and demand, I did price it higher. Next is this Alo Yoga Sherpa jacket that sold for $166 on eBay after fees. I paid $34 for it, so I made a $132 profit, and it took a little bit over 3 months to sell. With fall and winter coming around, this style jacket is like popping off of the racks. I have sold this jacket and then another, I think I sold this jacket and then like 2 more that were like the tan version of it. So they're a super popular style right now. So if you come across them in the stores, I think they're probably really popular at like the buy sell trade stores and such, because they're a little bit of like a younger generation style. Then definitely pick them up. Next is this Poupette St. Barth skirt set that sold for $155 after fees on Tradesy. I only paid $19 for this, so I did make a $136 profit. This is probably the cheapest Poupette St. Barth item that I've ever found, so I was really happy to find it at that price. And after listing it on Tradesy, it only took about a month to sell. Tradesy definitely picked up a little bit more for me this month, which I was very happy about. I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent with cross-listing on there to hopefully make more sales on there, because usually they do come through at a full price, which is like so nice. But after taking out your money from PayPal, it does take the most amount of fees. It's a 20% fee that they take, and then it is about a 2.9% to transfer into your bank. So it ends up being more than Poshmark, but if it's a full price sale that you're getting off there, it is worth it. Next is this Veronica Beard blue blazer that sold for $268 after fees on eBay. I paid $125 for this, so I did make a $143 profit, and it sold a little bit under 2 months. So this style blazer is a double-breasted blazer. It had a little bit of a herringbone pattern to it, Both really good keywords when you are sourcing blazers to sell. Next is this Mad Happy Aspen ski hoodie that sold for $238 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $81 for this, so I did make a $157 profit and only took 8 days to sell. This brand, it does sell really well, but usually for not as high. This was a more rarer style of the hoodie, so that's why I was able to sell it for more. Next are these Old Gringo red boots that sold for $278 after fees on Poshmark. I paid $113 for them, so I made a $165 profit, but they did take a little over 5 months to sell. I really do like finding these boots. This also was a pretty good style because there are so many styles of these boots. You do want to make sure that you look into it. However, I think another reason why they did sell, and I wasn't really aware of this, but I was looking through a Poshmark email and it said that like red boots were currently trending, and these are red boots. So I'm assuming more people were looking for them and that's why they sold. So I guess pay attention to red boots, they're currently trending. Next is this Roland Morent dress that sold for $225 after fees on eBay. I paid $46 for it, so I did make a $179 profit, and it took a little over 4 months to sell. This was a new tag item. I originally had gone through the process with ThredUp, and I forgot honestly how I got it so cheap because this brand usually is really expensive. It's been a long time since I had it. So it only took 4 months to sell because I processed it really late as well. I forgot what it was doing. Like, I just didn't process it, but it did get a ton of attraction on eBay versus Poshmark, and the fact that it is a newer tech item. I did have it listed for higher, and so it did take a little bit of a lower offer comparative to my listing price, but however, since I only paid $46 for it, I definitely took that offer and ran with it. Next is this Eero Asheville leather jacket that sold for $247 after fees on eBay. I paid $60 for this, so I did make a $187 profit, and it took a little bit over 3 months to sell. I was able to score this for a great price online because the photos really didn't do it justice, and it did have a little bit of wear on it, a little bit more excess wear on it. However, I did know that this style is a great style, so even though it did have more wear on it, I knew I wasn't going to be able to sell it for as much. However, buying it at the right price and pricing it at the right price for the wear, I knew that I would still make a decent profit after subtracting fees and such. So just remember that when buying things with wear, even if it's a trending style and trending brand, sometimes you might not want to pick up something if it has any flaws to it. However, if you just know in your head that you're not going to be able to price it as high, but you are able to score it for a good deal, you still may be able to make a good profit off of it. So we're coming down to the last 3 items. This third item is this Burberry wool trench coat that sold for $275 after fees on eBay. I paid $88 for it, so I made a $187 profit. This took a little over a year to sell. I had listed it for last fall and it didn't sell that season, and it didn't sell, of course, through the summer months. I know I've talked about this before in the past with the style and the color, which this is neither nor like a light color. This was also a large size as well, so that's why it did take a little bit longer to sell. I did score it for a really good price, which is why I picked it up. I feel like if I ever find these jackets under $100, I'm absolutely picking them up. So I was really happy this one finally sold. This probably was the cheapest Burberry jacket I've had in my closet because it was taking a while to sell, and because I did pay under $100 for it, I was willing to accept a lower offer. This second item is this Smith wool blazer that sold for $319 after Poshmark fees. I paid $122 for it, so I made a $197 profit. And it did take a little bit over 6 months to sell. Very similar to the Veronica Beard blazers. Blazers, plaid always do really well. I love picking up this brand and was very happy with the sale. And then the last item, the best item for this month, was this Rode art printed dress that sold for $311 after fees on Tradesy. Paid $92 for this, so I made a $219 profit, and it took about a month and a half to sell. This was a new tech item, and I thought it would sell faster on Poshmark and eBay. I did have it listed probably on Poshmark and eBay for around like 7 to 8 months. I was surprised it was taking so long to sell because this brand usually does really well, specifically their mini long sleeve dresses. Their Ella style does a lot better, but this style, which is the Carolina style, is very, very similar. But I think cross-listing it to Tradesy definitely helped. It was a new tag item, very stylish item for people shopping on Tradesy. Somebody maybe is buying it for an event or something like that, since it is a little bit more expensive and not as casual. So Not exactly sure the buyer behind it, but again, it was a full price sale on Tradesy, which is why I'm so happy that I've gotten more items over to Tradesy. And that is all for this month here. I'm really excited to be going into the month of November. Sales have still been a little bit slow, but luckily I've had some really great sales to help me keep up toward my goal for the month. But November and December is going to be so crazy because my sister's getting married in December, and so we have like a bachelorette party coming up in a few weeks, and that's Thanksgiving, and then we're taking a long time off in LA, so it's going to be a very busy month. So I'm really preparing myself now with my business to get a lot of things photographed, to have things ready to be listed, so that my business doesn't have to suffer for me taking a lot of time off. If learning the brands and styles in these videos really help you, be sure to check out my Talk Trendy to Me newsletter, which goes over current trending brands and styles. A lot of the information in those newsletters that come out weekly don't end up in these videos because they're brands and styles that I'm really looking for, especially since these videos are backdated. They're not always the styles that I'm looking forward to in the future that end up selling. And there's a lot of items that I sell in my closet that are great, but there are so many more brands out there that I'm really dying to find. And you can find that on my website, reclothcollection.com. I have a ton of other resources and tools, so be sure to check that out if you're looking to level up your business. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I put out videos every single Wednesday. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, or you also are more than welcome to send me a private DM on Instagram at ReCloth Collection. Go ahead and give me a follow on there as well, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.